All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Trish Redzak Showalter. Everyone. My name is Trish Redzak Showalter. I'm a proud Verona resident. We are honoring our 150th anniversary this year by featuring a series of interviews. The first is with our highly esteemed, much beloved Mayor Dave Ricupero. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for asking.
We appreciate your time, and we're so excited to hear more about what Verona means to you, what it was like for you. So let's just kick it off with telling us a little bit about when you grew up and where exactly and what it was like.
I was born April 6, 1957 in Verona. Both my father and uncle were both raised and born in Verona. I was also, raised in Verona.
So what street, break it down for us, what part of town?
I was born on Jones Street at 506 Rear Jones Street, me and my two other brothers and my sister. And then we moved up to Peter Street up on top of the hill here in 1963. My parents bought their first house.
Wow.
And when it came time that I got married in 1979, the same house was available and we rented it, and I had my three children out of there.
Aww.
And when let me go back once. Yeah, I had my three children out of there, but let me go back to 1975. My first job was at Joe Halo's Auto Service on Jones Street. Then I got married in 79. And in 1989, I decided to go into business. And I started out where Allegheny Tire was on Jones Street, which is now Riverview Carpet.
Oh.
Then in 1995, we built a building right down the road by Giant Eagle and Recupero's Auto Detailing. And that's actually where my son started his business also, Recupero Landscaping. So I was born in Verona, I was born on Jones Street. I had my first job on Jones Street. I got married and moved in the same house on Jones Street. I had three children out of that house on Jones Street, went into business on Jones Street. So my whole entire life revolves around Jones Street.
Wow, that is very cool. That must be very special to have so much.
It's unique to have so much going on in one area. My entire life was revolved around Jones Street in Verona.
So tell me more about what it was like to grow up on Jones Street in that period of time. And then I would love to hear about, did you have some deja vu seeing your kids grow up in the same house and maybe doing some of the same things, or did they end up kind of involved in different things?
I was pretty young. I was probably, about 4 or 5 years old when we moved. So the memories, I do remember there used to be a little store right up by Conco. I can't think of the name now. And you used to go in there and she had like bread and a lot of candy. And I remember just as a young kid riding my bike up there at, 5 years old, I guess, and buying candy for a dime, and she'd give you this whole bag of candy. And it was like, wow, I got all awesome. This for 10 cents.
What a value.
Yeah. So.
That's awesome. I wonder, were there a lot of similar traditions when you were a child in Verona, or are things different now?
Traditions as far as what? Like?
Were there always the annual parades or light up night? We probably didn't have a movie in the park yet.
Right. We always had a Christmas parade that I remember. And one of the highlights in Verona was the Verona Oakmont Kennywood picnic. And the whole town, both towns actually shut down back in the 60s, as I remember. Literally everybody went to Kennywood. And we would go early in the morning and your father would come out after work, because the men at that time worked during the day, the majority of them. And the families would go out on a bus and then, the father would come out to meet you, after work.
Mhm.
And it was so packed that, and Verona was one of the first communities, Verona and Oakmont, to have their picnic at Kennywood. So,
Mhm.
however old Kennywood is, I believe it's 100, going on 120 years. Verona was the first community picnic
Wow.
that they had.
Wow. That's quite a legacy.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna turn the light on real quick.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, it's getting darker out. But yeah.
It is. That's awesome. So you went to
Oh, then the other big thing too is, I'm sorry, was the Verona's 100th anniversary in 1971. It was a week long, 7 days, and it was really cool just to walk down there. At that time, you walked everywhere. You just left the house and you just, we just walked down, me and my neighbors, kids, we walked on, and we had all kind of events. They had all kind of events down there. There was actually a carnival up at the ball field, a big one, we would go to also. So it was some exciting times growing up in the 60s and 70s. I wouldn't trade that time for anything.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to hear more details about that in the 125th anniversary as well. But finish telling me about where you went to Riverview High School. It was still called that.
Yeah, I went to grade school at Verona. We were still at Verona, it was still Verona High School, and I went to the elementary school. And I believe it was 1971 or 72. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I believe it was 71. Verona and Oakmont merged. And so then at 8th grade, it went up to Riverview, and I graduated from Riverview in 1975.
One of the first classes.
No, 71 was, I believe, but 1975, I believe, was the largest class. I believe my class graduated with 209 kids, and that
Wow.
was the largest one at the time. And I still believe it still is one of the largest classes.
Did you do any activities or sports?
I had went out for track, and I chose to work rather than play football. I did play 1 year of football, but I chose to, work at the age of 16. But beyond that, before that, I did play football at Verona Elementary School.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunities for kids now between the Twin Boroughs and RAA, which I'm sure those are not quite as old as the high school and whatnot. But
Right, the St. Joe's Church had a baseball team, and it was opened up to the parishioners of St. Joe's, and me and my neighbors that I grew up with, we were all on different teams.
oh,
Growing,
cool.
yeah,
That's very cool.
similar to RAA now. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, we still have St. Joe's. So that's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah. So, can you tell me about one of your happiest memories in Verona, either growing up or present day?
Well, my happiest moments, I would have to say, are my children, and my 5 grandchildren.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
are my happiest, moments at this point in my life.
absolutely. But they're not all in Verona. They are, remind me where they are.
North Side, Sarver, and Virginia, near Washington, Springfield, Virginia.
Yeah.
My youngest daughter.
Yeah. But I bet they have a lot of happy memories growing up in Verona and probably look forward to visiting Verona.
Yeah, they do, and they come out for all the holidays. And my daughter, the one that's in Springfield, Virginia, she does come once a month. And I was just there last weekend for the weekend. My 2 grandsons, they're back to back on birthdays, end of February, beginning of March. So I went down there
Wow.
and spent 4 days. We
Yeah.
all
Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, I was just gonna say it must be hard her being out of state. Maybe she'll come back to Verona at some point.
Well, she works in the Pentagon, and she's got to work there, 10 years in order to get a full pension. And so I don't foresee them coming back. If they do, it'll be quite a while. Quite a while. They both
Yeah.
have jobs.
Yeah. Sounds like they did pretty well. You did pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very proud of all my children. They've done very well for themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a reflection of you, of course, and maybe also of the wonderful community that, they got to thrive in, and the education too.
Verona's a very good town to grow up in. It always has been. It was a very safe town. Do we have problems? Sure, we have problems. We have problems just like any other community throughout the world, pretty much.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't give this town up for nothing. If I hit the lottery for $100 million, I would stay in Verona, and that's the honest truth. Have
I
no
believe it.
have no desire to move into a huge mansion.
It's definitely a gem. I think a lot of families have discovered Verona. We didn't get to grow up here, but it's just the perfect gem.
Right.
Yeah.
My house in value went up 3 times from what I bought it at.
Hmm. Your house on Parker Street?
On Parker Street, Upper Parker Street. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know who lives in your former house on Jones Street?
No, I don't. No, you know what? Actually, Councilwoman Janet Loelbo, her son and daughter-in-law bought the property, the house in the front and the one in the back.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Small town.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about to share about one of your more difficult memories in Verona. I know you said Verona is wonderful to grow up, but of course it has some problems. Was there ever a difficulty that you overcame, or a group you were a part of overcame? I know you were on council for a number of years as well.
Um, Probably one of the hardest things that I've encountered was one day I was working at my shop and there was a house fire down by the river. And so I knew the firemen were shorthanded during the day. So I went over there, and I'm not a fireman, to see what I could do. And when I got there, there was a couple firemen there, and there was a young boy. It's kind of hard for me to, to bring that out. There was a young boy that was trapped in there, and knowing and watching the house on fire until the firemen got there with the water, he perished in the fire.
Heartbreaking.
So
That's definitely a difficult moment.
yeah.
I'm glad you were there to lend whatever support you can. I know you've always been willing to drop whatever you're doing to help the greater good of the community.
And like I said, they were there with the squad, but they didn't have no fire truck there yet. It was on the way, and so was surrounding communities, and there was nothing anybody could do. It was burning so fast.
It's scary.
And he passed away from smoke,
Mm-hmm.
Inhalation. So he didn't actually get burnt, which if there was anything good about it, that would have been, the good part, that he didn't perish, with flames. He, with smoke. He ran to part of the house where, he just overcame the smoke.
Right. Some silver linings there.
Yeah. So that was probably the hardest part that I have ever, dealt with.
Yeah.
In life in general.
I was going to say that really hits a lot of personal and emotional notes. Yeah.
And at that time, my kids were young also. They're probably
Right.
6, 7 years old.
You could definitely relate.
Yeah. So it does hit a lot harder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it seems that historically there have been a couple fires that have kind of had an impactful change on the landscape. I know about the Moose. Was that one of them?
That was probably a 12, 13-hour fire. I was there also when it went up in flames. It seems like every, anywhere from, 10, 15 years, we have a major fire in Verona.
Right.
Whether it's a house fire, building, or a commercial building. We haven't, thank God we haven't had any in a while other than the moose. That was basically the last time.
Right.
And yeah, it went up and it was completely destroyed.
Right. Right. Verona isn't immune to a lot of natural disasters. I'm sure you've also seen, some floods, any other particularly crazy natural events you want to tell us about?
I've probably been through 3 major floods in Verona since I've been on council, to help out. And we also, I believe it was in 97, snowstorms. We've had some major snowstorms. The one in 2010 where we had to actually had the National Guard come out in case someone got sick. They were based at the borough building if they needed medical attention because the ambulances couldn't get around, let alone, the street department. That's how much we had. I think maybe about 30 inches of snow. And so that was a challenge too. And that's when I first came on as mayor in 2010. And the Demore Tires, they have a lot of senior citizens in there. And we had to evacuate them and bring them up to fire hall until they could call family to come and get them. We fed them and kept them warm. And the one of the neatest things that I remember out of that was, I believe it was in 97, 96. We had a microburst come through town and it knocked out power for like 4 days. And it was very interesting because, there was power lines down everywhere throughout Verona, Oakmont, Penn Hills, Plum, and so on. But it was kind of interesting because you couldn't do nothing. You couldn't go to work. So you basically stayed home like they did, I guess, back in the 1800s where they had no power. And you sat on the porch in the evening until you went to bed, and whatever food you had, you tried to manage it or cook it all up, that was in the freezer. Threw a lot of food out because ice wasn't available. Even if there was power somewhere, that everybody went and bought the ice. But it was very interesting to kind of live for 4 days without power. It was very interesting.
Like you're camping, sort of, just in your town.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Now, a lot of people probably don't know that. So that was when you were on council?
I was on, yes. Yes. I came on council in 91.
Now, that's kind of a neat story. I don't know if you want to recap that for everyone.
I opened my business up on Jones Street, Ricupero's Auto Detailing in 1989. And I started getting involved with the Verona Chamber of Commerce. I was put on the board, I believe it was in 90. Then in 91, I had told my wife at the time, I says, I want to go to a council meeting. So I went to a council meeting and I knew quite a few people there. And they asked me, what are you doing? I said, I don't know, I'm thinking about running. So I'm sitting there, and this was at the old police station across from Jack Shemp's on the boulevard, on Allegheny River Boulevard. And I'm sitting there and they read a resignation of Tom Teehee, which was on council. So the seat was up and everybody pointed to me, there you go, Dave, there you go. And it's like, wasn't expecting it this fast. So as time went on, they had like 30 days to appoint somebody. And people on the board started asking me, I said, yeah, I'm interested in it. And a couple of the guys worked the evening shifts and they couldn't be at the meeting. So they didn't actually have a quorum to vote on anybody. So it actually went, the board asked, whoever's interested, put a letter in. There was, I believe, 6 other people, including myself, that put a letter in. And it had to go downtown to the courts. And a judge read all the letters that were submitted to the borough for the appointment of council. And I was chosen to represent Verona for the last, I believe it was 2 years. Being on, taking over Mr. Teehee's resignation for the last 2 years. Then ever since then, I ran and thank the people of Verona that they trusted in me and continued to serve Verona up until 2010, until I ran for mayor.
So a judge who didn't know anybody read all of these letters and hand selected you from this pile of letters. That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, just
Yeah.
curious, why did this Tom gentleman decide to resign?
I guess he had just too much going on at the time. I really don't know, why. Um, I guess he just had too much. He's been on for quite a while, and enough was enough at the time. And I guess he
Yeah.
figured it was a good time to resign.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad he did, and it worked out for you. It opened the door for your
Yeah, it did.
long love with Verona and Verona Council
Right.
and being a part of everything. What's the biggest difference between Verona of the past and Verona now?
Verona of the past was a very old town, old buildings, steel mills,
Mhm,
um, polluted air. As a kid
mhm,
growing up in the 60s and 70s, I remember. Um, that would have been the past.
mhm.
The future, we got, the steel mills have all moved on, new businesses have moved in and brought a lot of new people in. And as far as we just started growing,
Mhm.
getting a lot of new people in, coming into town, fixing their homes up, fixing the buildings up in the business district. We got a
Mhm.
major grant from the county to do a revitalization, I believe back in the early 90s, to, for the business people to fix it up.
Mhm.
And I think it was 92, 93. Contractor bought the old steel mill down American Foundry down on Jones Street at the very end. It used to be a dead end, and they
Mhm.
put Rivertown Shops in, and that really boosted, and McDonald's.
Yeah.
That really boosted the community up, and people started moving in. New people, a lot of younger people started moving in.
So that's always been a McDonald's and a Giant Eagle.
Since 91. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
and also Demore Tires. At that
Mhm.
time, the what would we call it? The senior citizen high rises started becoming very popular
Mhm.
throughout, the country, I guess you could say. And one of them was built here in Verona. It used to be an old sand and gravel, Davison Sand and Gravel. No, I'm sorry, Cable Lee Sand and Gravel, and it was an empty property right by the Riverview Children's Center, and they bought that, the old gravel pit.
Mhm.
Uh, did I lose you?
I lost your video for some reason.
Um, Hold on, Dave. Councilman Dave Matlin was trying to call me. I'm sorry.
Oh, no
Um,
problem.
we're back,
We're
and
back.
so the senior citizen high rise, and I think there's 50 units in there. So that's freed up a lot of homes in Verona. A
Ah,
lot of senior citizens, they moved down into there. A lot of widows. They had these huge houses, so that opened up a lot of homes throughout the community. And helped Verona start growing with, younger generation coming in.
that's fantastic. Speaking of Verona of the past and how it's changed, earlier you mentioned the 100th anniversary, and I think there was also an anniversary for the 125th, correct?
Right, I was involved in the 125th. Yes.
That's amazing. So, can you just tell us just briefly what that was like, and is there anything that you would like to try to capture for this year for the 150th?
The 125th was started by Nancy Jeffries from Dirty Harry's. That was a bike shop at that time, motorcycle shop slash bicycle shop, which it still is the bicycle shop. Now the son took over. The Verona Chamber of Commerce got involved in that, and we had a big parade, and we had fireworks that were pretty, fantastic. And we started the first. I started the first car cruise, uh,
Yes.
Verona. So unfortunately, last year we didn't have it because of the COVID, but this year I'm going to talk about it to council about having it for our 150th.
Yeah.
So it was things like that that excited the town. I mean, we didn't do as much. Excuse me. We didn't do as much as they did when I was a kid for the 100th.
Mhm.
Things were a lot cheaper too.
Mhm.
Parades are very expensive. Fireworks were expensive. The car cruise didn't cost nothing. But it was very interesting. So
Yeah, it sounds like it was very celebratory and
Yeah,
the whole
it,
town kind of got involved.
it was. And we had a lot of volunteers to help put it together also.
That's amazing. So I know this year we're still coming out of COVID and of course having a lot of budgetary uncertainty. So I'm not sure about some of the things you mentioned, but is there any way we can still build that spirit and maybe get more people involved or engaged that you can think of?
I'm sure there is. Yeah, the budget's going to possibly play an impact on there, but we've got a lot of young and energetic people that want to continue to see the 150th be put on. And like you said, these are trying times right now. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, let alone today. But I think we'll continue to go through it. It may not be as big as the past because of the COVID, but at least there'll be something to celebrate the Verona's 150th anniversary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Mayor Dave, I know you've been such a public figure for so many years now, but what's something that most people don't know about you or would surprise people?
I like to help people out. I'm a very quiet person. I just like getting involved with the community. Even if I wasn't on council or being a mayor, I would still be involved with the community. I enjoy meeting new people and getting involved and bringing maybe some old ideas to the board, to whatever board from the past. And like I said, there's a lot of younger people that have got involved with new ideas. So with the two, I think that would be my biggest thing. I enjoy working with people and helping people, whether it's putting on a fun time for the community or any type of disasters that may, arise in the borough, being there to help out.
That's not much of a secret, though. I thought you were going to tell us about your secret culinary expertise and those amazing things you post on Facebook.
Yeah, I do love to cook. There is like I don't want to say a cooking show, but there's kind of like a cook-off on Facebook, and I've got an honorable mention twice. But it kind of gets to the point where I got to stop doing this. But I'll continue once the weather gets warmer and start cooking out on the grill and trying some other thing. I'm still going for that, first, second, or third place. You don't get nothing out of it other than a little bit of prestige about it, and people complimenting you on your food. And I've done it 4 times and I've gotten honorable mention, for my display.
Oh, wow. Well, we're all rooting for you.
Thank you.
You mentioned about getting some of the newer, younger folks more involved for the 150th and otherwise. I was wondering if you had any advice to the next generation of people who maybe want to follow in some of your footsteps in getting involved in Verona. Any wisdom?
Just get involved. I mean, if this is your future, I'm at the point in my life where I'm getting older, and I still want to be involved, but we need a lot of new ideas, to come into the community, to move us forward and make Verona continue to make Verona a place that people want to come. Years ago when I started the newsletter, I always put in there a saying that volunteers are not paid because they're useless. Volunteers are priceless because they don't get paid.
Oh, I love
So
that.
that kind of says a lot. Just because you're not getting paid doesn't mean that you're not accepted.
Right.
There's more volunteers that are willing to come forward, and I've seen it so many times. They've never asked, what's in it for me. It's always,
Right.
what can I do for you? What can I do for the town? Let's make
Right.
this a spectacular event or
Absolutely.
community and what have you.
My final question is, do you have any hopes or aspirations for the future of Verona? We're recording this today. It will be made available on YouTube for potentially many future generations to view. So do you have any hopes and aspirations you'd like to share with them?
Um, you know, Verona is a good place to raise your family. We have a very good school district, Riverview School District. We're close to everything Verona that is. You can walk down the street and get on a bus and pretty much go anywhere you want. Monroeville, downtown Pittsburgh, take the bus in. You can walk to Giant Eagle. Everything, we have some new I guess you would call them pubs, I guess, or like Inner Groove and Acclamation and Stonewall. It's a different venue from the bars that used to be there, in town, which still are, but looking for new people to come in, buy the homes, fix them up, and there's great value in the real estate in Verona. There really is. Like I said, I bought my house at $47,500 in '86, and it was only 10 years old. It was one of the newest houses in Verona, and it has been appraised at $180,000, if not more. It all depends, what the market it brings, but the market has been very well, in the past. So come to Verona, enjoy what we have. Verona is on the rise. There's more and better things to come, throughout this community in the future.
Absolutely.
The younger people are the future of these communities, any community. So you need to get involved and join the community.
Well, sometimes it really feels like we have huge footsteps to fill, but I'm so glad we have yourself and a number of other people that we can go to who are just wonderful resources for us and for our community. Thank you, Mayor Dave, for all you've done. You continue to do. We appreciate you.
Well, I'd like to just, thank you and the rest of the board. And I am on the committee on the 150, and congratulate to Verona for celebrating 150 years. We have come a long way in 150 years.
Absolutely.
Verona is the spot that's more than a dot. It's growing. And that was a slogan back in '71. So I appreciate.
Yeah. Sorry I interrupted you again, but yes, I think I agree with you 100% on everything you're saying. Happy birthday, Verona. And for anyone who doesn't know, our 150th will be on Monday, May 10th, but we are holding a virtual ceremony Saturday, May 8th. At 12 o'clock, it'll be starting. We'll be featuring our own Mayor Dave Ricupero for some additional birthday remarks to Verona. Looking forward to that.
Can I say one more thing?
Please do.
Verona has also had a Christmas parade probably for over 50 years between Verona and Oakmont. Very popular. And we also honor our veterans that have died in all wars on Memorial Day. And that's a very, very community event, so to speak, with both times. We take that very seriously with our veterans. And they're going to actually have through this COVID time in May, where I'm on the board on that also now. And they are going to have another Memorial Day parade. They didn't have one last year, but they're going to have it this year.
That's good to know. Thank you for bringing that up. I was just going to say I was disappointed because COVID prevented us from doing a lot of the traditions last year. So a lot to look forward to this year.
Yes. So
awesome. Well, thank you for that update. Thank you again for your time, Mayor Dave.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Take
All
care.
Right.
Bye,
too.
everyone. Bye.